Hi. We just did episode 5, which was the second part of the zodiac, that Sagittarius is the hunter. It's us as a child practicing the skills needed to feed itself, just like every animal does. That's why it's half human, half animal. And it also implies that we humans in the age of Sagittarius, starting around 19,000, and I should really get those numbers. You can read my book for the specific dates, or we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the applieds down the road. But around 19,000 humans went through the hunter phase. And what did we do? What did we need to do as to hunt? We needed sign language. We needed the ability to communicate. Now they're out of our cave cities and we're living above ground and we've mastered animals. Right now we have beasts of burden, we have birds of prey, we have dogs to protect our flocks and protect our families. We have all this going on, right? That's the age of Sagittarius the hunter. We've learned to master the animals. That's why the man's on top of the horse, not the other way around. We're now going to the next phase. This is one you never heard of, the 13th one. He's standing on top of Sagittarius, just his left foot. And I never got into what the zodiac is, but just his left foot touches the flat plane. So just his left foot, the rest of it is on top of Sagittarius. And we'll get into what the zodiac is later because I don't want that to confuse you. And more detail, more fact you don't need. Let's just talk about what the symbols mean. And then we'll get into to the whys and wheres and whens and whos. So right now, we go to the third stage, and that's Ophiuchus the serpent bearer. The child also at the age of 1. So remember, we follow Fibonacci, 0, 1, and also at the age of 1, once you've mastered calling and arcading, you then become the walking, talking toddler. The symbol for Ophiuchus the serpent bearer is a man holding a snake. Proudly, chest out, proudly holding a snake. That's the child standing in control of its tongue. So Ophiuchus, we now not only dominated animals in Ophi, right? We had control. There was no more snakes in our villages, so to speak. We've now had control of mastered animals. We have beasts of burden. We have birds of prey. But we've also mastered our tongue. That's why it's the snake we're in control of. Our tongue, right? You ever speak with forked tongue? The snake and the tongue are associated. And that's what it means. We mastered our tongue, and that's Ophiuchus. The next comes, and again, that would have started about the same time, the need to hunt. You needed language in order to hunt. You needed group effort. You needed to be able to communicate group-wise, nets and whatever have you. Anyway, with that said, the next stage comes Scorpio. Now, we look at the climatological record. Scorpio starts somewhere around 17,000 BCE. So why would we have a Scorpion as the next? So I looked at the climatological records. Guess what? All the area that was once being fed by melting glaciers when the temperature rose around 22,000 BCE started drying up as the temperature got colder. The temperature for some reason dropped by 3 degrees. And those glaciers started over 1,000 years, just went down to a trickle. Raging rivers which fed whole populations could no longer support them. And everything went barren. Everything in the Middle East started going barren. Everything north of the Caucasus Mountains, where we come from, Caucasians, whites, Caucasians, Caucasus Mountains, that's where we lost our pigment. And we came down out of the mountains to the Black Lake. And when did that happen? In the age when the earth dried up. Scorpion, desert, dried up. We still use deserted to describe something that was once fertile and is now abandoned, like a shopping mall, right? It's now deserted. Well, that's why we say that term, because certain areas that were once fertile dried up and everything, because the temperatures got cold and the rivers all shrank. And we went through a drought period. And it permanently changed the landscape. Well, that would have been the age of Scorpio, which started around 17,000 BCE. Going back to about 15,000 BC, as a result, the next thing is Libra. As a result of humans now congregating by fresh water sources, the Black Lake being the size of New Jersey at the time, that became the New York City of 15,000 BC people. That's where people started to settle and congregate. All the way from there, all the way down the Tigris and Euphrates, they went. Big fertile stretch still there. And that would have been the age of Libra. That's where trade, commerce, and accounting got started. The age of the scales, Libra, the scales. Well, that's what happened for the big whole human race. We started commerce. I started making knives, you make blankets. Guess who got rich, though? Remember, inequitable distribution of wealth starts the next stage. Inequitable distribution of wealth starts the next stage. So around 15,000, we started keeping track of the finances, and we started trade and commerce and accounting. For the individual, it's the 3-year-old. And I skipped it, I'm sorry, but Scorpio is the 2-year-old. It's the terrible twos. Scorpio is the terrible twos. Every child, every mammal has a child that will go through the terrible twos, where it strikes out at its parents. The child at 2 now has control of its tongue. It can walk around and can do anything it wants, but it keeps being physically manipulated by its parents over and over and over. And stop doing this and stop doing this and da-da-da, and go take a nap and got time to eat and time to bed. Leave me alone. The child can't take it when he gets overtired or cranky or hungry and starts screaming at you. Says all nice not things. No, me, mine. Things like that at you. So that's the stage of Scorpion at 2 years old. So it's now Fibonacci. 0, 1, 1, 2 is Scorpio. And 3 is the age of the measuring child. 3 is the age of the measuring child. Every 3-year-old now knows that 3 cookies is better than 2 cookies when given a choice. And they know that if there's something they don't like Brussels sprouts, they know that taking 2 is better than taking 3 Brussels sprouts, right? So they learn to measure the world, and they start asking, what's that, 1,000,000 times a day. They start doing all the things, asking all the questions, and are naming things. And they start to negotiate with you. So they're entering a phase of Libra the scales. So they are measuring the world. And that forces you into a new stage as a parent. You go from Taurus to Bull, strict parenthood, to negotiating with toddlers, Aries to Ben. So when the child goes to 3, you go from Taurus to Aries, all right? And so does the whole human race, but you'll see. With that said, that's enough for this episode. We'll pick this up in our next episode, all right? I wish you well. Thanks for tuning in.